Good evening everybody, warm welcome to Parish Council of Thornton Dale's ordinary meeting of Tuesday the 3rd of June 2025. The format of the meeting is as always really, in as much as we have quite a big agenda to work through this evening, and for the observant among you, you will notice that Holly from North Yorkmoors National Park is going to give a short presentation shortly. So we just need to be mindful of the time. We will have a questions and answers session to begin with, and then we'll move straight into the Parish Council meeting. So, without further ado, are there any questions from the floor at this time for the Parish Council? No? Splendid. Okay, open the meeting then, and we'll go straight to the agenda at agenda item number 131, and that's to receive apologies for absence. Councillor Claire Balson gives her apologies this evening, unable to attend for personal reasons, which I'm fully aware of, and they're quite acceptable. But other than Claire, everybody else is here. 2425132 is to receive declarations of interest. Any items on the agenda from members? Are there any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. 133 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the Parish Council meeting of the 6th of May 2025, previously circulated. Any comments at all on those? Otherwise I'll just ask David to sign them up for us, please. Thank you. 134 is to consider a note ongoing matters arising from previous meetings, and A is to receive and consider an update with regards to the boundary wall at All Saints Church. So, very much work in progress. We have had the wall inspected, as you may recall. The result of that initial inspection was that further work is going to be needed in order to assess the amount of movement of the land behind the wall, and indeed the current repair of the wall itself. Now, in order to undertake those additional work, requires digging holes and drilling stones and placing sensors and such like. So I've gone back to the Diocese of York for their advice with regards to what permissions and faculties are required, and they have very dutifully told us the process. The Parish Church Council met on the 23rd of April and had some discussions with Reverend Joe Kinsella. He was of the view that he could just give his permission to the Parish Council to continue, so we are currently just waiting to see which body is correct. There's a reluctance to proceed if we do require a Part B faculty application, and if we do require that, then that would be a matter for the PCC to forward. So that's the update. Very much work in progress. Any comments or questions or queries?
Is it the resident that recommended sensors and drilling holes?
It is, yeah.
Right.
Mr. Calvert, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just a little concerned
Why
about
is that?
how much it's going to cost.
Well, until we know what's going to be required, it's difficult to say how much it's going to cost. But there are two schools of thoughts. One is that the wall can be repaired with a bit of repointing, but the other school of thought is that we really need to address how much landslip is going on before we just merely repoint the wall. Otherwise, the wall could, a strong wall on the hillside could affect the other wall on Church Lane side. So you don't want to strengthen one side and not the other. You need to, as I understand it. So it's still.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, go on.
It's definitely our cost as a parish council.
Yes.
When I was reading up on it, is it because it's a closed churchyard, it's our cost.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a closed churchyard, it wouldn't be our cost.
Yes, it closed. Yeah, legally it's our.
So we've got to do it.
Yeah, it's our responsibility. Okay, but until we know more, it's very difficult to make any considerations or discussions about cost. But I think you're right; it's going to cost a lot of money. Either
Can
way.
we not hand it back to North Yorkshire? Yes.
Well, there is that.
I just think
That's
it's a
right.
big worry.
Yeah.
I really do.
Legally, we've got a responsibility to at least find out what needs doing, because we can't, to my mind, hand it back to North Yorkshire and say crack on with it, because we don't know what needs doing, do we?
I think we should just hand it back.
So the church have no responsibilities at all. I really don't.
The
get
church
it.
have no responsibility for it at all, no.
How do we hand it back? I mean, you know, it's
No
a
idea.
process.
How do we hand it
I
back?
don't know, we'd have to ask our county councillor.
Well, I can make inquiries,
Okay.
but if that's where you definitely want to go, but then don't let me make all the inquiries and incur officer time, and then you say, well, no, we want to keep it. So make that decision formally to request that you ask it back, and that will need to be voted on, and then you can formally ask me to do that, and I will try and put the process
Well,
in
up
motion.
until 2 minutes ago, I wasn't even aware that there was a process to hand it to North Yorkshire Council. So
I think you ought to be in contact with the church as well. You can't just hand it over to North Yorkshire.
I think you can actually.
do we know what the process is, Jenna?
It has been discussed. I can't give you the current the details straight away, but I can ask and make inquiries.
One thing we do need to consider is that if we do hand it back to North Yorkshire, it certainly won't be maintained to the standard that the village has come to expect it to be maintained. They may mow it once, maybe twice a year. The rest of it will be left very much to its own devices.
Sorry, you're talking about the maintenance of the church.
The maintenance of the churchyard.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're talking about handing the
maintenance of the church.
the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
church,
the whole,
the
the
whole,
whole
Yeah.
whole thing.
shooting
So
match goes back
it's
to
not
North
ours
Yorkshire.
anymore, it belongs to North Yorkshire Council. And then when it's in any kind of disrepair,
It's none of our business.
It would be a negotiation, and they might say you have to put it into good repair before we take it back, just as the church did when the parish council took it over. So they might say, well, you've got the wall that needs doing, the weeds need addressing, the tombstones need standing up on end or whatever, and we'll take it back. I don't know. I can make inquiries as to that process, but I would imagine that they will want it handing back in fairly good order, so that they will maintain to that standard. And
Well,
John's
I
quite
didn't-
right.
So yeah, I was personally unaware that that was even a consideration to be had, which is why we've been taking the course that we have. So if you could find some inquiries, we'll keep it on the agenda.
Do you want to vote on that so that we know it's a...
What, to vote to make some inquiries?
Can I just
Well-
ask a question? Is there only two options, or is there a third option, which is to get a special grant to do that repair and keep it in the hands of the parish council?
Yeah, well, if you're going to apply for grants to do things, you've got to know what you've got to do, and we still don't know what needs doing, essentially. Yeah, but I get your point. Thank you. So, where were
it
we?
needs to stay within the bounds of the village and the village look after it, not county.
So we're not deciding on whether to hand it over to North Yorkshire Council. We're deciding on whether we're going to make inquiries as to whether that is a viable proposition. So that's the proposal. Just need a seconder.
I'll second it.
In favour? Okay. We'll make some inquiries then. Who's going to take the lead on that? Rebecca, can you do that?
I think
for
it'd be
us?
enough with the cemetery and the allotments.
Okay.
And
Can we
somebody else
have
take the
somebody
lead.
else then to take the lead on that?
Do you want me to do it?
Thanks, Jenny. Right. 134B. To receive and consider action for the All Saints Church Parish clock. John?
Yeah, I went to church on a couple of Thursdays to catch Keith to get into the clock tower
Yeah.
and failed miserably. I suspect I could alter the time by stopping the clock and restarting it, but the chime is out of sync now by 3 hours, and I think that needs the regulator looking at and seeing if Cumbria Clocks can alter the regulator and set it up right.
Yeah.
I would like to have one look at it to see that it's not just a case of resetting a clock on the regulator.
Yeah.
And to do that, I would need to get into the church via somebody with a key. But I would like the council to make a decision that if that's not successful, then we can contact Cumbria and get it done
Are
professionally.
they not coming to do this clock as well at some point?
Only when
when
there's a
service is
major
due.
service to do.
Right, and we haven't got a major service due.
Not until February, isn't it, Jenny, when the
Yeah.
clocks are serviced?
So the fact that we raised funds to get the clock sorted,
Yeah.
as far as Cumbrian clocks are concerned, it's not anything they've done that's made it go wrong. I'm just clarifying from my own head. It's this pack testing that happened.
It was the
The
fact that
jiggly up.
the electricity supply was interrupted for probably a week or more.
So it's not covered by their guarantee of work that they've done because they got it to the point where it worked. That's what I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah,
Before we start talking about additional costs.
any sort of failure as a result
Yeah.
of the church electrics not their machinery,
So we would have to pick up the cost.
unless of course their machinery should put itself right.
Yeah.
It hasn't.
Hmm.
But I would like to have one last look to see if it is feasible
And if it isn't, you're looking for the council to decide.
to
Approve
call in
or not.
Cumbrian clocks.
Yep.
to-
Okay, well
to
that's
do
the
that.
proposal.
Repair.
I'm happy to second. All in favour of that course of action?
Yeah. And while Cumbrian clocks are down, is it worth them doing the institute?
Doing the
light?
lights, yeah.
Yeah, do the lights.
Yeah.
Do the light, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you. 135, to receive and consider updates from the parish plan group. Well, for those that were at the annual parish meeting, we had quite a big update with regards to the parish plan group. That meeting will be available on YouTube soon, I think. So
7:30 this evening.
oh right, thank you, Janet. So that is available. Other than that, the update is that the group are meeting, continues to meet. The next one's on Monday, and they're obviously working on developing the draft parish plan. So nothing further
What's
at
the
this
deadline,
time.
Phil?
Well, hopefully July. Kept to the timetable to date, so we haven't, unless there's any unforeseen circumstances, it should be July. Splendid. Any other comments on the parish plan? No, thank you. 136, to receive and consider a plan for the village upkeep and maintenance, i.e. the caretaker. One is with regards to updates, and the first is Thornton Beckile beds and shrubs and the work required there. That's been done, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And I noticed it's been done in conjunction with the owners of the properties down there, and it looks quite nice all the way along. The main,
Can I make a comment on that, please?
yeah,
Outside just between the thatched cottage and the farm,
yeah,
there are some huge burrs that are growing about 25% over the path, which by the summer they will cover it completely. So that section hasn't been done, and it is impeding on the public highway.
some large ones, sorry.
Burrs, like docks, the sticky
Ah, right.
buds.
Has that not been done?
But it's whose responsibility? It was just with you saying it's been done with the permission of the property owners. So is that bed, the bed is technically on the common land, so is that ours or theirs?
Well, if they're growing out of the bed on common land, that will be parish council, won't it?
But they are growing well over the footpath.
Okay. So he hasn't done
We
those.
haven't done that.
Do you know why he hasn't done those? Does anyone?
You might have thought it's not PC land.
Oh, we don't know, do we?
I think some of them are not PC land. I think they're in the gateway of the farm, you know, the metal.
No, they're not.
All right, okay. I'll
Okay.
have a look tomorrow.
We'll get to look at those,
Yeah.
then, please, thanks. The second is main village upkeep and Moulton Gate, and I think that was around weeding, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Have we got a plan for that? He did do a small bit on VE Day. Went to a few houses down, but the whole of Moulton
he
Gate.
did, I remember at the
Yeah,
meeting.
but
he'd
the whole
done-
of Moulton Gate has not been done.
What concerns me is I've had a look at the weeds and they're actually growing out of people's property and people's walls.
Some are, Rebecca, but some
A
aren't.
lot of them are.
But some are and some aren't. I walk it every day like you do, some aren't.
Yeah.
I think the thing
And
for
what
me is,
concerns me is that if he starts pulling them out of the people's property, he's going to pull out cement and things.
well, the roadside isn't people's property, the pavement side isn't people's property. On the back side, that isn't, is it, I don't think? Where the weeds are growing.
What, down Moulton Gate? Well, that's
Outside
the
the road.
village, isn't it?
Pardon?
Are we talking about on the other side, the back
On
side?
the roadside, yeah, on the roadside on the other side.
Does
I
it
mean-
do the road?
It just,
No. We've walked it up and
Is
down.
that not
it, okay.
highways?
well, I think
The road?
after the discussion at the last meeting, the idea was we were going to spray it.
And that
That
makes
is-
sense.
So we just need to cost it out
Do,
and agree which spray is the most appropriate, and then it's sprayed.
do highways not spray it?
Yeah, I can confirm that it's a highways responsibility and highways do spray it, and it will have to be done with a spray licence, and it will have to be done with a spray that is inactive within an hour of them putting it down, because there might be damage to people's pets and dog owners and children and things. So it has to be done. I don't think it's something that the caretaker can actually undertake that. I think it needs to be done by highways.
So are you all saying that Moulton Gate is not the caretaker's responsibility? Just for clarity, because if it isn't,
Well,
they've just had it on the table.
So Moulton Gate's a fairly long road, isn't it? The caretaker has been tasked to weed Moulton Gate within the
The centre?
the centre of the village.
Yeah.
And that weeding is obviously done at public expense. And if we're thinking of asking the caretaker to now weed the entire length of Moulton Gate, we have got as a council to decide whether we want to use public money for that to happen.
Okay. So when the caretaker weeded from the Beckhow Bridge, I don't know what the house is called, the one that's just been sold, when he was going down there and weeding, is that not his responsibility either?
Where's that, sorry?
If you're coming from the bridge into the village,
Yeah,
with me, coming down the hill, the house that's just been sold on the right hand side,
Bridgefoot Guest House.
he was clearing the whole of that area.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's
So-
just being clear, what does he do and what doesn't he do? Because if it is highways, then that's fine. But people on Moulton Gate, you know, are a bit annoyed it doesn't look very tidy. But if it's not the council's responsibility, let's make a statement that it isn't. And whose responsibility it
Yeah,
is.
but what I'm saying is the caretaker was tasked to weed the confines of the village centre, and Bridgefoot Guest House is within the confines of the village centre. He'll also be asked, like it was last year, to do the weeding of the cobbles up by the church. And I think when we have to show due diligence in public spending, when we're asking to do these things, like Beckhow as well, these are sort of,
I agree. I'm just trying to get clarity
yeah,
on what the caretaker is responsible for and what he isn't, and to have that written down somewhere so that people on Moulton Gate can be very clear, if he isn't doing Moulton Gate, that it is not our responsibility.
so responsibility for weeding. So,
But what a general tidying, you have the weeding, tidying.
so the general tidying and weeding, as last year, it's the village centre, to include Beckhow and the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
I think it probably needs clarifying that roadways, footpaths are the responsibility of highways.
Mm.
Any additional weeding, much like the verges, are the responsibility of highways. But we as a village take pride in the appearance of the place, and we undertake work which isn't technically our responsibility, but it does improve the appearance of the village and makes it a nicer environment for the community that live in.
Yeah.
So, although technically these areas aren't our responsibility, we do sometimes agree to work being done on them to keep up the appearance. However, with regard to spraying, it's a bit of a can of worms, as Janet was saying, that it has to be the right spray at the right time. If you're spraying by the backside, it hasn't got to pollute the water course. So it's probably beyond the capabilities of our village caretaker, whereas chopping the tops off would be all right and pushing them into the back. So it's up to us surely as a council to direct work which is to the benefit of the community.
And that's where I'm coming from, John.
You know, and there is an awful lot. It's a big village.
Mm.
It's not just Malton Gate. High Street is appalling.
Yeah.
Roxby.
Much
Roxbury
bigger.
Terrace,
And
Castle
you
Road,
know,
you
as
name
you
it,
go
they're
around
all
the
there.
village, you know, weeds grow,
Mm.
and a lot of the members of the public don't take responsibility for the piece of footpath in front of the houses, like in the old days. Forgive my age. So it's up to us to, the caretaker has a limited number of hours, and it's up to us to direct him as to where would be the most beneficial.
And the question I've got is, how do we, as councillors, direct his work, and how do we agree what he does and where he does it? Because
It's in the contracts, and that's managed through the clerk,
yeah,
not the councillors.
okay. So you decide where he goes?
Well, it's in the contracts, so it was decided when, as a council, you sign the contract off, you sign the tender off. So that would have been signed off before the work was.
So maybe members of the public haven't seen that contract, I don't know if they should see it or not. But what I'm asking for clarification is, can we not communicate something to the public about what the caretaker's role is and isn't?
Well, I
It can be
think
difficult,
the
can't
communication should also be about
It can,
perhaps perhaps their own responsibility for their own, like Rebecca said, outside their own houses.
I
As
agree
well
with that,
as-
but that's not what I'm asking to do. What I'm asking is, can we be clear what the caretaker, what we're asking the caretaker to do and what he's not responsible for?
Well,
Because that will help. That will
I
help.
can just
Well, that will,
recirculate.
let me finish.
Shall I
that
just
will help- that
recirculate
will-
the contracts?
That will
Would
help residents to understand what his role is.
Well, I'll just recirculate the contracts that was
Okay.
for the
that'd be helpful.
caretaker then. Everybody's got a copy, and then if
So,
anybody's asked.
so given that the contract is confidential between the parish council,
We've never had a list before of what the caretaker's going to do.
so the
Well, it's
management,
Something that she wants to
the
do.
tender document.
the
Nice
tender
to have a list of
document,
things,
yeah, the tender, yeah, we can circulate the tender document.
Yeah, and that's got a list of all the
Yeah.
key areas
Yeah,
that we've asked him to do.
in terms of management, what the caretaker is tasked to do regularly features on the agenda. We're talking about it now. Members of the public, if they want to see what he's been tasked, can either watch the video or come to the meetings, etc. It's down to the parish council to ensure that A, the caretaker is undertaking work that he's contracted to do,
Yeah, agree.
and B, that we spend public money on the right things. It would be irresponsible of us to task the caretaker to go and weed the entire length of Malton Gate and Roxbury Road, because what he can then not do is other things.
And
So
all
previous-
I'm asking for, Phil, all I'm asking for through the chair is clarity on what the caretaker's doing. If you're not doing well, that's fine, but let's be
Okay,
clear.
well I can move on to what he's been doing and what the previous taskings have been through previous parish council meetings, and the first was to tidy up the closed churchyard.
Yeah.
Now, the caretaker has been up there and done quite a considerable amount of work on the trees, and Dave and I went up there, didn't we, and helped him. I walked around there the other day and he's lifted all the trees, and the view and the light through the churchyard is really quite nice. The cuttings from those said trees were chipped and they've all been raked out, and then I think there's a small pile that he's going to handball into his truck, isn't there?
Yeah,
and,
that's on the wall.
and take up to the cemetery. So, given that the caretaker is in the village once a week, 4 times a month, I think in terms of previous taskings and what he's been doing, he has been busy. Other previous taskings that we've asked him to do are the apple tree and the snickets down off Malton Gate.
Can I just stop you there?
Yeah.
We spoke to National Parks the other day,
Oh, you did, right?
and he was going to go and check it out,
Okay.
the footpath of where the apple tree is.
Okay, cool. So that's for the snicket, isn't it?
That's the snicket, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if Rights of Way come back and say that's ours, then that's great. But on the tasking list is still the apple tree, but that is not the right time of year to
No,
do,
that's
is
right.
it?
Yeah.
So but
Right.
that is on the tasking list,
It is.
which will be communicated by Jenny, as she says. We've got also the self-seeded elders growing out of the bank near the entrance to the car park. And other than those, I don't think there's anything else on the list waiting for him to give attention to.
Just the tidy on Beckheim, which has just been.
And the cobbles on the main road. Mark knows about them.
Okay.
I think he needs
Is
somebody.
this up by the church?
Yeah,
Yeah,
up
weeding.
on the main road side.
Do they want spraying then?
He did them by hand last year, didn't he?
Yeah,
He laid them out last year, didn't
Mm.
he? Yeah. Is there, and this will get to the point in the meeting where I say, is there anything else to be considered for tasking of the caretaker? No? Okay, let's move on. Number 1362, cemetery gates. That refers to oiling of such, or
Yeah, it's gates and benches. So we've
but we
started.
were going to cost, weren't we?
Yeah, we started doing the costs, but I think we can't really finalise the cost until we know exactly how many benches we need to either oil or paint.
Yeah.
Rebecca and I had a ride around on bikes to have a look at. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. We had a ride around on the bikes to look at the benches. There's hundreds of things in there.
I think there's
Oh, but-
327.
there's
No,
something.
there isn't.
They're all in different states of repair. We've got to decide: do we want to spend public money doing other people's benches? I might be controversial, but I'm going to say it's going to be an expensive job, not only in labour time to do every single bench. And the other thing is, we talked about balm paint. I've got a brochure. There's about 5,000 different colours you can use to do the job.
I've got
The people that paid for the benches and bought the benches, what colour do they want? Do they want red, pink, black? There's a lot of decisions to be made before we even go anywhere near it. But I do question: why should we pay?
Well, I can
for
answer
what-
that. The
Because it's
recent
policy.
purchasers of benches have signed the bench policy that
Mm.
was adopted by this parish council.
Only recently though.
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah.
last
So
18
Yeah.
months.
So the
18
old
months.
ones,
Yeah.
The old
so
one.
the old ones, if there was no policy, is it our responsibility using public money to paint a bench? And it's
Well,
going to cost a lot of money.
but-
There's a lot of benches.
The hubbers have volunteered to do the labour, so it literally is the materials that the parish council need to be buying.
Are they aware of the task? There's a lot of benches.
Well, I think we just
Well,
have
just to
to
get
prior-
back,
we
just to
need
get back to the
prioritise.
bench policy that we adopted as a parish council, that did attract a cost and a commitment from us to maintain their bench for
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
But these are new benches,
So,
aren't they?
These are the new
Yeah.
ones under the new
Yeah.
bench policy. So I think given that circumstance, yes, we should be maintaining them. The bench policy also stipulates that it's down to the parish council to make decisions around colour and such like. So that's fairly easy. The second part of the question is, are we going to go and do the other 322? Well, a lot of those aren't even on parish council land, an example of that would be the road up to Wellerberg Church. But I'm gonna look towards my more experienced members here, because the parish council previous years did undertake maintenance of the benches, including those on Ellerburn Road, didn't they? So maybe the parish council had a bit more money back in them days, I don't know. But I would suggest that we consider, yes.
We also had 2 or 3 gentlemen that actually did it as well.
Yeah, well, as Jenny quite rightly said, we've got some volunteers that are prepared to do it. I think they should do the ones that we are obliged to do. But we need to decide 2 things really. Are we going to continue painting all the benches, or are we going to identify ones that we should do? And I'd just invite any comments really.
We did count the ones in round by the pond and the car park. They are not our
No,
responsibility.
they're national parks.
They're belong to the
But
national
nevertheless,
parks.
we
I've got rid of
Yeah, I
them.
mean,
I've
I
got
think
rid
it's
of
fair
them.
to say a bench on national park land or somebody else's land, not necessarily the responsibility of the parish council.
Do you think it's important to almost make a start, even if you target sort of 10 each month? Obviously not do them all at once, but the idea is to, you know, purchase the materials and then...
I think what I would like to see done are the railings,
Yeah, I would.
is what I'd rather see done first.
No,
Because they are
we're
the
sort of going off point now. We need to...
We
Not
need to
on the
talk
agenda,
about,
not on the
we
agenda.
can't talk about railings, we're talking
Not on
about
the agenda.
benches. So I'm going to say that we need to do the new benches because people have paid us for them to be done. Now,
What new
But the
benches?
new ones won't need doing,
The
because they've
new
already
ones
been
don't
pressure
need
treated.
doing.
well, they need looking at, don't they?
Well, they've been looked at, they're brand new, so they've been pressure treated since new, and they're like to last probably 5 or 6 years without being.
We
looked
probably
at.
need to do it next year,
Okay,
the new
let's do
benches.
that next year.
But
But whether you want to
The
identify...
cemetery gates needs doing.
Definitely.
Are there any benches that we feel should be done then?
There's
Other
one
than the
down
new
by
ones.
Kyle which I think needs looking at.
So we've got one that needs to be done.
Yeah, it was a little bit unsteady. Somebody had put a stone underneath, and I think that needs looking at or taking away if it's not quite.
Okay.
Are we accepting that we're responsible for those benches then?
On
Even though they belong
Beck
to
Isle.
other people? On Beck Isle?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about one on Beck Isle.
Yeah,
I think if they're on parish council
yeah. I get
lands,
that. I was thinking about the
I've-
ones that are planked with.
unless anybody's got any comment, I think we should be considering those benches on parish council land.
There is one on, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
through you, Chairman, there is one on Priestman's Lane that I've had complaints about, just outside your gate, John. It's, if you sit on it, you'll know what.
Yeah.
It's a concrete one, it's very difficult because the wood goes between it, but people have sat down and gone, oh, I don't feel safe on this, so that might need looking at, just a safety check on it.
It was installed at the same era as the 2 on the village green, and we as a parish council have removed those for safety reasons.
Yeah. I don't think it's safe.
Could I say that I spend a lot of time travelling around villages on bicycle and foot, and the first thing I look for before I buy a sandwich or an ice cream was a bench.
Sit on a bench, yeah.
Otherwise I might move on to the next village. So it'd be worth having and looking after. I reckon if those benches out there fell apart, I think Bollis's ice cream might have his business.
They're all pretty new outside Bolsons,
Maybe what you might pay towards looking after them.
but there's 2 brand new ones, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm
There
saying-
is. Okay, well then I'm going to move on unless anybody can tell me that there's benches on parish council land that need doing.
Beck Isle and
One.
Priestman's.
Yeah, well that's a concrete one, so that won't get painted. And the gates, so it's one bench and the gate. If we could just get a cost for standard dark brown, what's it called, David?
Which shade was that
Chestnut.
been?
Yeah, we'll have a look. We'll have a look, and then we'll move on. Okay,
Why
136.
don't you do bright green and yellow and be done with it? Be
Good
rainbow.
idea, it'd be canary colours, then not
Yeah.
city colours. They're fantastic.
Which
George of Woke again.
reiterate what I said at the last meeting regarding painting and benches.
Okay,
I
please do.
view paint of benches is A, expensive,
Mm-hmm.
and B, shortens the life of the bench.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend that all new benches that we're responsible for not be painted, but just be oiled with
Oiled.
teak
Sure.
oil or
Yeah.
oil instead.
Yeah, we'll do that next
Because
year.
paint is A, expensive,
Yeah.
and B, shortens the life of the bench
It's not good,
significantly,
is it?
which is why we've had so many problems.
Okay, thank you, John. Right, 1364.
What did we agree about the gate?
It's
So,
exhausting.
okay, I just want to move on. The gate, we're going to get costing
I'll
for,
pass it round.
yeah, and then we'll leave the gate on.
No,
So, rewilding of corridors in the village. Previous meeting, the chair took correspondence from local residents who viewed concerns around cutting of grass verges and asked the council if there was any opportunities to look at rewilding and such like. And on the back of that, we've invited Holly Ramsden from Parks to come and give a presentation. Holly, I'm gonna stop chatting now, thankfully, and hand over to you if that's all right. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Holly Ramsden.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Do you want me to turn off lights?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Also, thank you for sending the biodiversity policy that you have made. That was really interesting to read. I hope that after this presentation there are some things you might want to take away that might help you with some actions for that. Although maybe not some things after some of the earlier points. I haven't been able to get the this to work, so I'm just going to stand here. I hope that's okay. The Grubs Up project is actually privately funded, so this isn't co-funded from National Park. This is from Santander and Howden's Joinery, which means that I can spend money outside the National Park, which is lovely. So my project is actually half in and half out. So the project area was not based on where in National Park, but actually where has the most potential for habitat enhancement. So we actually use someone else's research, which is from BugLife. They have done all these connective corridors of potential, really good potential areas for pollinators. It's called the Beelines interactive mapping. And as you can see, this is national, so these connect up nationally. And they've got the coast and we've got the south edge of the national park where the A170 is. So we decided to just take a chunk of that based on the amount of funding that we received. We decided that the area that we could cover was roughly from Helmsley to Thornton Dale and then sort of up until you reach the moorland. This was a particularly this area was a priority for us because it incorporates some of the tabular hills like your limestone grasslands, and there's already quite a lot of really great habitat here, and it's connecting up some quite big patches. You've got Dalby Forest area, you've got Leversham areas, you've got Cropton, loads of different great patches already. I'm going to talk about Thornton Dale particularly at the end and just sort of go through the special qualities that there are around here. So a bit of an overview of the project. It really is all encompassing. I think we decided to do a lot for the money that we received, but in a nutshell, we want to sort of connect up a whole range of habitats for invertebrates, but particularly pollinators, and that's also like restoring existing habitat that is becoming degraded, and we have the opportunity to create new areas as well. The overall aim is to increase the number and diversity of invertebrates. We really want to involve people in at every point and do a lot of engagement work around why these connections are so important. So your human pressures, like your changing land use, and natural pressures such as climate change, not being able to migrate for some species in quite a connected area means there's a local extinction event, so it is really important. Just today I was over near Cropton at this lovely traditional orchard that used to be part of a market garden, and it should have been absolutely teeming with pollinators, but the very surrounding area just doesn't have much there, and it was really noticeable compared to some of our road verges and other areas where you have quite a linear connection, and there is quite a difference. And that's for sort of your flying insects. For other species, it's quite different, and they, you know, for trees, for example, you would only need trees every 20 to 100 metres or palms every 500 metres, but when it comes to sort of grassland, it is quite important to have a connection. So this is what the project offers. The different elements come from the different sources of funding, but we're able to sort of complement them both so that we can sort of approach a holding or parish council and just say we can offer all of this. So we've been doing a lot of work along the A170 on road verges between Helmsley and Kirby Moorside. Highways have agreed to leave, so there's always going to be safety cuts, that's never going to not be done. So it's the backs of the verges where they're quite wide and currently just sort of left anyway. Some of those areas were getting mown by local farmers who had just decided they wanted to do it not out of a payment, just, you know, it's part of the wider area that they looked after, but most of the farmers around the area have agreed to leave it long this summer, which is fantastic. We've been going into local schools and getting to decorate some blue hearts to stick out to say we're leaving it on purpose. And then we're hoping to do some enhancement work, whether that's through a change of management or adding in some green hay a bit later in the year to sort of boost it as much as we can. So something I should have mentioned before is this project is a 2-year project, so it's really here to help kickstart doing these things, but then it, you know, the onus is on the land manager going forward. So we can sort of put in the resource needed to get things going. So landscape trees is a really nice one. It's, you know, it's, most people want a new tree. The ones that we're promoting are like infield or in boundary trees where they're allowed to grow to maturity without being competed, and that becomes the next generation of veteran trees which supports thousands of invertebrates. The traditional orchards as well, that's a brilliant hotspot because you've got the early nectar sources from the fruit trees, then you've got the wildflower understory, which then continues till about September, and then you've got, in some cases, you've got hedgerows as well, which provides the early blossom and also the fruit and nuts after. So for wildlife generally, they're absolutely fantastic. So we do a lot of work in some villages that have a lot of traditional orchards, looking at restoring those and then adding in some new ones as well. Hedgerows again, originally when this project started, the Sustainable Farming Incentive was going, and there were lots of grants available that I could, you know, direct people to and sort of just work on the enhancement, but we're taking some of that on ourselves as well. So we're able to spend a little bit outside the National Park boundary at the moment on traditional boundaries such as hedge laying, and also just help with some guidance on management that promotes blossoms and fruits and nuts. So it's just allowing some of the 2 to 3 year growth on a hedgerow to remain, because that's where you get basically all the food sources. Species-rich grassland, we've been working with a whole range of other organisations, helping them with their areas that have become a bit degraded, and also private landowners, and also creating new wildflower meadows, so that is an option as well. Wet areas have been really popular. We've gone from creating a series of 5 sort of ponds and wildlife pools down a whole slope to small scrapes within an orchard, restoring old dew ponds. It's been really interesting to see what's been of interest. But so lady who commented before about the Thornton pond. Unfortunately, that one is a little bit out of my scope of my budget. But if you do want me to ask any questions in the National Park, I'm very happy to. So if you want to ask me later, that's fine. And then a small thing as well, you know, if none of this appeals or it's something that maybe you can't do, we are creating wildlife homes with the Pickering Running Sheds, and they've been doing all kinds of bat boxes, bird boxes, owl boxes. So if anyone would like one, please do let me know about that. So it was just a little bit of more information about grasslands, but I realise I'm quite stretched for time, so I might just skip over some of these, and you can just ask me questions afterwards. But this is just sort of the range of grasslands that we've been focusing on. Also just want to point out with that, before we do any enhancement work, we'd like to know what we already have, and that's really important to us to make sure we're doing the right thing in the right place. So at the moment, June is very busy for grassland surveys. It is the best time to do surveys, so we are going to be quite flat out. That's myself and lots of lovely volunteers that we've trained. Hedgerows as well, we can also add 2 hedgerows, so that's climbers such as your honeysuckle and black bryony, which are really great food and nectar sources. And also encouraging sort of grassland strips either side of hedgerows. Again, it's a really great connective corridor for invertebrates. I've talked about wet areas already, and just as an aside, we've got a woodland creation scheme in the National Park. They are very restricted as to what they can do. They can just plant trees, but a lot of the areas they've done have been really sympathetic to wood meadows, so really big clearings to allow more diversity into that habitat. So through this project, we've been looking at where we can collect local seed from woodland flora plants with permission of the landowner, getting those grown on by organisations including a college, and then we're going to plant those back out into some of those areas under schemes. So it's a really nice sort of positive story to sort of help boost that new little ecosystem. I've said about the top 2 and the wildlife homes as well. Community involvement is a really big thing. This project is fairly small. It's just me. I'm the only paid member of staff for this. So I've been doing everything with the help of the community, National Park volunteers, parish councils so far. It's been really positive. We're hoping to get more funding to extend this because we're committing up our funds quite fast, which is wonderful. Yeah, we've been working, perhaps not as far as Thornton Dale so far, which I hope will change, but we've been working all the way from Helmsley to Pickering and up. Lots of people interested. So we have loads of volunteering opportunities as well, practical and surveying if you're interested. Wanted to just add this in briefly because dark skies lighting is actually really linked to my project. I mean, bees are very well known pollinators, but actually moths are arguably more efficient pollinators, and they do the same job at night unless they are distracted by lots of artificial nighttime lighting. So this is just saying, wherever we're looking to do some enhancement work, we'll also be looking at whether there's any conflicts with lighting. And that's not to say, no, we can't do something because there's a floodlight, but we actually have lots of guidance and potentially some help to change the light, make it a little bit more sympathetic to wildlife. So I just wanted to pop that in there as well. We've had loads of case studies now of really positive cases of changing our lighting. Those pictures are a really good example of exactly the same place. The bottom one being arguably better lit, but far more sympathetic. So Thornton Dale, I've just pulled out a few things off the internet. Please take this with a pinch of salt. This is very general, but the key take home I had from this was you have a lot of different soil types and geologist types, as you probably know, around Thornton Dale. So you've got your, in the pale yellow, that's the most northerly extent of limestone-rich grass-like soils, which promotes really amazing grassland. You get so many rare species and rare invertebrates that it supports. To say there's 7% of the UK, of England, that has that type of soil, I would say a very small percentage of that is actually still grassland. So it is a really precious environment. So we'd love to sort of protect any of that area that we have. But also you have quite a lot of free draining soil around here, which again is really good for sort of enhancing ground flora. Apart from, I think there was one bit that was quite clay rich, but it's just always worth bearing this in mind to sort of plan what you might be able to do. And then this is also, these are the National Park records of existing habitat that we have. I did zoom out quite a bit. I don't really like zooming straight into people's properties or anything, but you can see that, so I'll have to point it out here. So these areas are sort of your limestone chalky grassland. You've got your neutral grassland, which is sort of these orange bits. The broadleaf woodland is the pale green. Obviously you've got your big pond, so waterways. This is a formerly species-rich road verge, which actually hasn't been looked at in 10 years, so I don't know what condition it's in, but it'd be wonderful to do another baseline survey there. And that is in the area that is quite, has the limestone-based soils. And I just wanted to add in as well, and there was the picture I had on before. This just shows you've got a lovely connective corridor already. So you've got wooded habitat, you've got your landscape trees. It wouldn't take too much to do even more connections in this area. So I think you've got a lot to start with already. And I'm sure you already have lots of ideas of what you'd like to do. So that's it really, that's just the overview again. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any
Thank you very much
questions?
indeed. Are you taking questions at all, Molly?
Yeah, definitely.
Has anybody got any burning questions we can dedicate a couple of minutes to, or if not, I'll just encourage you to perhaps make contact.
If not, I'll leave some leaflets so you
Yeah.
can just get in touch. There's an email address on it, so you're
thank
welcome to not say questions in front of them.
Oh yeah, please.
Can I just Brian Walker? So I used to.
Hiya. I
Yeah.
know your name.
No, yeah. Only in a good way, I hope. Just so that people have no doubt about how the environment has changed in the last 50, 60 years. In 1974, I surveyed some grassland at High Staindale because the Forestry Commission wanted to build a lake. And when we surveyed it at that time, me and my colleagues, I was a volunteer at the time, said there was nothing remarkable about that grassland. That was the type of grassland that you could find all around Thornton. There was nothing special. Up and down the valley, this grassland existed. Right down through Ellerburn, the same sort of similar types of grassland and plants could be found. If I went back now, and there's a small patch of that grassland remaining at the top end of Staindale Lake, if I go back there now, I would say you couldn't plant that grass, you couldn't flood that grassland. That grassland is so unbelievably diverse now. So 50 years ago, yeah, thereabouts, somewhere about there, I'll be 23, it was unremarkable. Now, you look at that grassland and it's remarkable. And so things change, and you know, we've changed things sometimes for the worse. So maintaining these corridors, it's not a flight of fancy. It actually, for me, I think it's one of those quite important things. And we are seeing new insects coming in. Nice insects. 2 years ago, there was a lesser stag beetle walking around in Westgate. And lesser stag beetle is a beetle that's from the south of England. It's just starting to come into this area. Roselle's bush cricket, I think, he's arrived in Wycombe Forest from somewhere. But Roselle's bush cricket was a southern thing, but it's all over the River Rye Valley, and it's moving in. And these things, if they're going to survive, they have to have some corridors. And like you were saying, you don't have to have everything absolutely joined up, you know, but there are places I look around the village and I think, yeah, well, if that was mine, I'd just change the management a bit. I wouldn't quite do it like that, you know. But just a point, it's just a pointer of how things I've seen have changed over 50 years from somebody who's, you know, worked in the environment for that long, really.
Yeah, right, thank you very much for your comments, appreciate that.
Holly, I spend hours and hours just walking the fields all around the parish here, and 95% of the hedgerows are cut within an inch of a life every year. And you touched on earlier that if a cut every 2 or 3 years, it allows a flowering, the fruits for nuts, and that provides not only the food, the nesting places, it provides the corridor that wildlife needs to keep to survive in one area. Because once you isolate it, it's almost the beginning of the end. Do you have any experience of what is the best approach when you're talking to landowners to try and encourage them to?
I think it is very common that the practice that's done is what has been passed down, it's what has been done for a long time. And I guess the key message is, I'm not saying don't cut your hedges, I'm not saying all those contracts must stop, it's just changing the way slightly that might be done. So it might be, there's not just one way, it might be incrementally you just increase the size a little bit each year, and that will allow some of that 2 to 3 year growth to remain on. Or it might be that you cut one side and the top 1 year and the other side the next year. So there are loads of ways to do it if you still want to cut your hedges. And I appreciate in some places you need to cut hedges for like access if there's a footpath next to it or something. But where you can, where it's no skin off your nose not to do it, you know, it really does make a huge difference. And I'm really hoping that some government grants come back in, because they are really quite appealing for this sort of management as well, which really helps.
Is grants the only way to persuade farmers to do it, or are there other ways?
I mean, changing hearts and minds, sure, but it is their business as well, so it is a really good way to help.
Yeah, I've got an amazing video on my phone from down near Charity Farm. People will be aware of that area. And you scan across and you can see the hedgerow that's been cut this year, and you get got a little patch of white, which is about the blackthorn in flower. It's next to useless. And then it comes to the corner of the field and it turns right, and the hedgerow hasn't been cut for 2 years. And it's the most wonderful, it's like the cherry blossom in Japan. It's wonderful.
It's great then to show that comparison, isn't it?
It's on my phone here, and I just wonder if there's a way, maybe parish council influence.
There was some guidance passed around which I could do again.
Like a meeting.
A guidance leaflet of you know, how you can manage your hedgerows. Other thing to mention is it actually prolongs the life of the hedgerow, because if you cut into the same width and height every year, it forms those really hard knuckles on top, and the bottoms become really leggy, and it's just, that's not a really sustainable hedge. And you know, a lot of farmers could ask like, what do I do about it? But those slight changes of method actually also prolong the life of the hedge.
Is that thrashing a bad thing as well for the hedge rather than cutting? We just basically rip it over with the chains.
Yeah, I mean, it does open it up a bit more, like it's more susceptible to like fungal spores and things, but I think with hedges they're quite resilient, to be honest.
So we just need the will of the people, don't we? Just to get together, because it's vital. I mean, we're running out of time. You know?
Richard, thank you for your comments. I'm going to have to cut you off there because we have got an agenda to get. We've got to get an agenda to get through. Holly, again, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
yeah, please do. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Put the lights back
And don't feel that you need to hang around. If you want to shoot off,
Can I just ask,
please. I do need to move on. If you could be quick.
just one question.
Yeah.
The letter I wrote to the Parish Council last month asking to look at
Yeah.
cutting of grass verges and so on. What's the next step on that? What happens next?
So we're going to get it and the next agenda for further discussion. Essentially, which will be the next Parish Council meeting. Following up the input from Holly,
Right.
there's obviously a few things to come out of that presentation and
Yeah.
correspondence that we received. So we need to get it on the agenda too.
Right. So it continues as an agenda item.
It will do, yeah. All right. Okay. Right. Thank you. Right. Moving on. 2425137 is to receive and consider an update from the Forest and Dale Flood Prevention Group. David, over to you.
No further update really.
Okay, thank you. 138, do we need to keep it on?
No,
We can take that off?
Yeah, take it off.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. 138, to receive and consider an update and proposals from the Cemetery Working Group. Okay, the Cemetery Working Group met prior to this meeting to discuss fees, rules and audit work that is required. The matters are ongoing. Quite a good discussion around all three topics. The one recommendation to come out of that meeting for consideration of the full Parish Council is adoption of the cemetery rules previously circulated in April that were rewritten and kind of revamped from the existing rules. Rebecca, you chaired that group. Any comments at all, or before we make that sort of proposal?
No, let me just propose that we agree.
Yeah, okay, so for the proposal is the Parish Council adopt forthwith the updated and revised cemetery rules. I just need a seconder for that.
I'll second that.
Rebecca, thank you, and all in favour?
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you. Okay, that's been carried. Thank you, Jenny. Cheers, thank you. Okay. But of course, the work of the cemetery working group continues.
The fees we decided to
Yeah, needs a bit more work on it. Yeah,
keep them as they are for the time being.
yeah, yeah. Okay, 139. To receive an update on the VE Day celebrations. Well, that went ahead rather well. Thank you to everyone. I did personally email everybody involved in the preparation of that day, and there was an official certificate that went round. But otherwise, a good successful event. Unless there's any other comment, I'll just move on.
I remove. Yeah.
Yeah, remove that. Thanks. 140 to receive an update on the annual meeting of the Parish Council. Yeah, the annual meeting, well, the annual parish meeting went ahead on the 20th, and the video will be available for viewing on YouTube. Please feel free to have a look at that. But otherwise, nothing else out of the annual parish meeting. Huh?
I remove.
Yeah. 141 to receive and consider options for the date of the August 2025 Parish Council meeting has come onto the agenda for consideration. Was it John? Did you mention?
It's the show.
Yeah, it's
The show?
the day prior to the Thornton show.
Why do you not just have a meeting in August?
Is that the proposal, Marguerite?
Yes, it is.
I'll
Because
second
we
that.
never used to have it.
All in favour?
Yes.
Lovely. Thank you, Marguerite.
There's no need for one in
I
August.
completely
It's already
agree.
on.
Completely agree. That completely agree. Did you get that, Jenny? Thank you. 142 to receive and consider an update on the Employment Tribunal. There is no update. We are still waiting a judgment on that case, and we will obviously bring that to you when we receive it. 143 is to consider new planning applications. There are no new planning applications. There have been noted some updated decisions from previous applications that were discussed at the last meeting, but there's nothing there requiring any further consideration, because I don't think anything has come back to us for further consultation. Okay, 2425144 is to receive and consider matters raised by the parish clerk and our responsible financial officer. The first at A is to receive current bank balances. So, should we go as of April? Barclays Community is £26,521.28. As of April, Barclays Premium, which is including the reserves, of £73,172.95. As a note, the above balances include contractual payments. Yeah. And those bank balances have been reconciled on Scribe. Any comments before I move on? No? Thank you. B, to consider payments for approval. Now then, we have got some payments requiring approval, and I'll start with the ones from Scribe.
Yeah.
We have pest control, which is the moles up at the cemetery. An invoice has come in for the princely sum of £80. So just propose that the parish council approve that. Just need a seconder. David, all in favour? Yep. Lovely, that's everyone, thank you. The second, we as a parish council made the commitment to spend some money on the VE Day celebrations to an amount of, was it 250? I forget. Up to. But the bill has come in and it's only £74.11. So that's the proposal, is to pay that. Seconder, please. Rebecca, all in favour?
Yep.
Thank you. The third is the invoice has come in for our financial internal audit, and the fee for that was £307.50. So that's the proposal. Just a seconder for that one. David, all in favour of paying the internal auditor? That's everybody. Thank you. And then on the clerk's notes, we've got previously approved allotment training, £27.40. So that's the proposal. Just need a second for that.
Yep.
Thank you, John. All in favour of paying YLCA? That's everybody. Thank you. And then there is one on here which was considered by the Finance Committee, but I won't bring it because we need
further information.
Yeah. So
I think it's due April, isn't it? It's overdue now, but
it's overdue.
Because we haven't had the letter.
We don't know the details of the invoice in its entirety, so we won't propose that one today. We'll carry that one forward, Jenny. Right, thank you. Okay. C, to consider future payments in and received. So, we've done future payments, haven't we? This is a list of previous payments, isn't it, as a debit?
Yeah, these were all
On the clerk's notes, I'm looking.
the May statement.
Yeah, the May bank statement.
The need report.
And credits in from the allotments, rent has started coming in.
Yeah, that's the total amount received for.
£1,203.31.
Yeah, it was 7 outstanding.
7 outstanding is there? Okay, thank you. Then we've got the Bullfield tenancy has been paid, and bench applicant has been paid also. Splendid, thank you. D is to receive the interim and full audit reports from our auditor.
Internal audit.
Say again?
Internal.
Internal auditor, yeah. Interim and full reports. So they have previously been circulated to members for consideration, but before I propose, well, I don't have to actually, just to make point to receive, isn't it?
Just to say the Finance Committee met tonight
Yeah, thank you, David.
6:20,
Yeah,
and discuss the internal audit review.
yeah,
And then the AGAR 24-25 documentation support and paperwork, and then consider and agree the dates, the period of exercise for public rights for the 24-25.
lovely, thank you. So we will consider the interim and full internal audit report as having been received. We'll move straight up to E, and that is to receive, approve and sign the AGAR 2024-2025 Section 1 Annual Governance Statement. We'll do that first, shall we? That's that one, right, thank you. Considered again, as you say, by the Finance Committee. It's
Yeah.
just a question of me as chair signing, isn't it?
Well, do we not approve, do we not vote?
Well, yes, sorry, yeah, got to approve it first, haven't we? So, any comments first on the Section 1 statement for the AGAR return?
This has gone through the finance.
This has gone through the Finance Committee.
So is
The
question
recommendation is it to be adopted or
Yes.
approved?
Yeah, is there
isn't it?
anything that we need to know that, because we're not on the finance committee?
Yeah,
so
no, that's fine. Is there
are you
anything
happy with it?
that June
Anything
and
we need to
Marguerite
know?
need to know?
Probably one thing to note on the AGAR was the couple of boxes where we ticked no, where we were a day late putting the submission, putting the public notice out on the website. So hence the reason for no on one side of the page and yes on the other.
But that was because of a technical issue.
That was due
wasn't
to a technical
anybody
issue.
lackadaisical thing, it was because of a technical issue.
Okay, well the proposal is then to approve this Section 1 AGAR 24-25 AGAR Annual Governance Statement. Just need a seconder. David, thank you. All in favour? Lovely, thank you Marguerite. Okay, I'll sign that then. And then we'll move on to Section 2 of the 2024-2025 AGAR return, which is the accounts statements as previously circulated. Sorry, David, I mentioned again, considered by the Finance Committee, as David's just said. The recommendation is that we as a parish council do approve it. So the proposal from me is to approve Section 2 of the accounting statement for the AGAR return. Just need a seconder for that. David, thank you. All in favour?
I haven't looked at it yet because I've only got it tonight, so I'm abstaining from that.
You're going to abstain?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you
Yes.
get that, Jenny? Okay, right, thank you. Right, thank you, that's that. And then G is to receive and approve the dates for the period of the AGAR 24-25 exercise of public rights. So, again, considered by the Finance Committee previously, we come to the ordinary meeting of the Parish Council now with a recommendation that we approve. But I will just quickly run through the dates. It's proposed that the date of announcement for the public rights for inspection of our records is held on Monday the 16th of June 2025, and that the inspection period commences on Tuesday the following day, the 17th of June 2025, and ends on Monday the 28th of July 2025. So that's the proposal. Just need a seconder. David, and all in favour of those dates?
Yeah.
Yes, everybody. They do conform, so that's important. Thank you. Nothing to sign with that one, Jenny?
No.
Right, thank you. Okay. Splendid. Right. That's the AGAR submission. 2425 145 is to receive new correspondence received by the clerk and any action required. So the first, A, is a resident of Brook Lane made contact with the parish clerk to report three things. An old planter on a triangular piece of land. There was concerns around cars parking on that piece of land, but more so the condition of the planter, and blocked gullies following the resurfacing of Brook Lane, and in particular the old gully that runs along the side of the old grammar school. So I can jump forward to this one. I went and had a look myself, and I contacted Highways, who confirms that the road sweeper was going to go and do Brook Lane again, and it has. The gullies have been checked and they are clear, and the old gully that runs along the side of the old grammar school was swept and cleaned by myself. Only took me 20 minutes, but it's been done. That just leaves us with the old planter.
The old planter was
Rebecca.
approved 3-4 years ago to be taken away. It was never taken away.
Hasn't been
So
done.
the last time it was used was by the rainbows and the brownies long before COVID,
Okay.
and we had to repair it then.
Right. Well, it is in quite some disrepair. If it's previously been
It's been previously
resolved to remove, we've
it
just got to get it
3 or 4
removed.
years ago.
Can I throw some light on that? Because I was the one that proposed that it was asked for the council to remove it because
Yeah.
it was such a mess, and we own the property that lives directly opposite that. So I asked for it to be removed, and it was put on the agenda to be removed just as the council at the 2022 council retired, and that new council came into office in 2022. Unfortunately, they didn't get a lot of business done, as you will know, so I think that just slipped under the net, and it was really unfortunate that happened. So I would very much appreciate if it could be removed.
Can we put that on Mark's?
I was going to ask Granta as well.
Yeah, it ultimately could be taken up to the thing, couldn't it? Yeah. Stick it on Mark's tasking list then, but we may be able to get him some help there to get that done. Okay, so that's that one. The YLCA annual branch meeting is being held on the 10th of June, just for your general information.
It's at Rydale House, isn't it?
It's at Rydale House. I think it's just good practice to advertise that on their behalf. If any members or if indeed any residents are interested, have a look at the YLCA website for details. C is a health and safety on the allotments training course. That's for you in terms of your continued professional development, isn't it, Jenny? So, are we looking to get that approved? Something that you would like to undertake?
We've approved it. It was on the list.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and I've actually done the training.
Oh, you've done it. Okay. Okay. If we had more time, you could give us an update, but sadly, we don't have time. So our newly qualified health and safety allotments officer, many congratulations. D is Unity Trust Bank, information received on a Scribe webinar. So that again has come from the parish clerk. It's in terms of how the parish council manage finances and where they put money, and information through different forums used by clerks has identified an opportunity to find an account with a higher rate of interest. So I think what we need to perhaps consider is bringing that forward to the next agenda to consider, and then maybe you could just give us a bit more information around that so that we can come up with the best way forward. E is A Bunton Waste Service Management Agreement needs to be signed. Can David sign that? F, tree work documentation for All Saints Church, Parks and York Diocese. Now, is this relating to the trees?
The extra limb.
The extra limb.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a tree in the churchyard with the extra limb that is in danger of overhanging the public highway. Oh, that's right, we had.
Yeah, the idea wasn't to cut the whole limb, it was just to
It was
reduce
just
it
to
by
nibble a bit off.
3 meters, but we thought we might need some sort of permission.
Okay, how are we getting on with that?
I don't think we are. So I think we just need to decide who's going to get in touch with.
I think the parks need to come and have a look, don't they, first? And they can either say it needs doing or it doesn't.
So should I ask the ranger, that ranger, to come and have a look?
Yeah. Okay. Well, who's the tree guy, David?
Nathan McWinnie, yeah.
Okay.
And then see what they say before you go to the diocese.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
There's,
Of course.
at the bottom of the correspondence received, it says NP, which I'm assuming is National Park, has confirmed they have surveyed and no immediate work needed to review in 6 months. Trees on Church Lane, stroke All Saints Church, further reported to Northern Power, response received, waiting for work to commence, and the clerk has chased again. Is that the same item?
No, you
No.
skip forward to K.
All right, sorry, beg your pardon.
Okay.
It's all these trees in the churchyard.
It's trees in the churchyard.
Confuddling me.
Okay, Jenny, so if you could progress that then with
Will do.
contact with Parks, thank you. G is the ICO correspondence and outcome. Previously has appeared on previous agendas. To summarise, Parish Council received a data request. The data has now been provided to the satisfaction of the ICO. There's been a little bit of learning and best practice around that with the assistance of the ICO, Information Commissioner's Office, but I think that's now been resolved and can come off. Thank you. H, Rydale Lions bench donation. One of the new benches on Chestnut Avenue has been kindly donated by Rydale Lions and been installed, and that is just a letter of thanks to them. I, defibrillator requested CPR training. Yeah, this has been something that's been running in the background for a while with Andy Dunlop, who you may recall we did some work with the defib on the green here in Thornton. At the time there was a bit of an appetite from residents for the parish council to put on some defib training, which we would like to do with the assistance of Andy Dunlop, but without going into detail, he became poorly and wasn't able to help. Something that we could perhaps follow up with him, see what situation is. I mean, he is quite keen, very knowledgeable, and I do think there would still be an appetite from residents to get involved in that. Okay, thank you. J is the Village Caretaker Grant of 2025, and an update. Jenny, do you want to give us an update on that?
Yeah, we received the money yesterday. So that's in the bank account, that's 2,750. But that's the last time we can actually claim it.
That's the last time, isn't it? So that is from Parks, wasn't it? So it's a grant funding from National Parks to help for the caretaker costs and such like, but National Parks are going to withdraw that grant here on in.
Because they've got no money.
They've got no money.
Yeah, they've got no money, but they can have a new building in there, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. K, request to Northern Power. This is you, John. Have you got any update for the
No,
request to Northern
I think
Power?
we've covered this topic.
I think you have. I think you have. So National Parks have surveyed. There's no immediate work required. Okay, that's those. Splendid. Okay, good. Right, moving on. 245 146 to receive matters raised by members for inclusion on future agendas and note outstanding matters. So we have thrown a couple at you, Jenny, haven't we? I've got a few things I would like, but before I rattle on, would anybody else like to have something put on the next agenda?
Yeah, could we have the railings put on, price up for paint?
Anybody else?
Is it just Sunnybury Green or is it down Mollingate as well?
They normally do the whole lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple from me.
Denise would probably know how much paint they use. She might be worth asking.
Well, it was the hub that did it the last time.
Yeah, Denise was.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about it in the next meeting? So, councillor liaison roles needs to be reviewed following the AGM, please. The AGM council adopted a new set of standing orders. They will impact on our public session rules, so we can have public session rules on there, please. We need also to review code of conduct policy. That's come out from the interim audit. We also need to review the training policy. That came out of the audit. You've added Unity Bank, haven't you? Tick that one off. And then the only other thing from me coming out of this evening, the presentation from Holly, can we please get grass verges on? And wildlife homes in terms of barn owl boxes. And I think that's me. Yeah, it is. Right. Anything from anybody else? No. Okay, thank you. 147 to confirm the dates of future meetings. 1st of July is the next. Then we have our summer recess. And we come back in January of 2026. I mean 2nd of September 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Look at that, 8:30. We're all done, quite hectic. I apologise for rattling through, but conclude the session. Thank you very much. Cheers, thank you.
When I was at school, I did years economic and public affairs, and I done O level.
30 minutes to spare.
And one